Howdy. Welcome to Ausgrave Royalty. I am Justin. We're here to talk about another one of Justin's crazy random thoughts. Perks of running the channel, I suppose. But yeah, I just hoping to just chat this over with y'all. Curious to get y'all's opinion on this. Something I've been thinking about for a while. And I mentioned it in other videos, but I wanted to condense my thoughts on this abstract topic here today. So you saw the title. We'll be talking about on the significance of a secure base. I took a lot of notes here that I'm going to read for a bit so that things are clear, or at least a little more clear than just me rambling. So I think it was Hegel who said that there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And that's like today's idea. We'll be talking about the significance of a secure base. In the manosphere, one thing I think the Black Pill does well is articulate the way we're all living in completely different realities in society based on how we get treated because of our looks, which are largely genetic and out of our control. There's a kind of pretty privilege and like a genetic determinism, so to speak, at least to an extent. I'm not full Black Pill, but I recognize that it's got some weight to it. Even in competitive gaming, players who play at a bronze level are almost playing an entirely different game than at the gold level, like the Little League versus the MLB. So yeah, I sympathize with developers trying to balance games. Many bronze players may have a list of legitimate complaints about the game that no one could blame them for having, right? From their perspective. None of which are experienced by the gold players who have an entirely different list. And then the masters at the very, very top, they've got complaints. Who's the most legitimate? So, that's a tough one. And in the same way, we all kind of live different existences within society, and communication can be difficult because no one of us has an objective perspective of what really is going on in society, because we all have to live life based on our subjective experiences, even if we're a statistical anomaly. People who love statistics say well, yeah, that's the exception. But I mean, if the exception is defined and informed your whole life, I mean, what good are statistics if you're the exception and you have to live that reality, Doesn't mean statistics are insignificant. Of course not. Of course they're significant. But maybe it's best not to think that statistics are reality itself. There's a separation between the data collected and how the data is experienced. Just kind of thinking out loud here. Yeah, say how we get treated then leads us to conduct ourselves one way or another, like the Matthew effect, right? Refers to a pattern in which those who begin with advantage accumulate more advantage over time, and those who begin with disadvantage become more disadvantaged over time. The result is an ever-widening differences between the advantaged and the disadvantaged. And yeah, this is old news to anyone in the manosphere that men with advantageous genes are getting all the women, creating a very large gap in success outcomes with the opposite sex. I think the statistical rates in virginity among men under 30 are skyrocketing. Think about the different realities for each side of the spectrum. Molyneux's talked about this. I think he said some men don't even interact with women for years. And for other men, their day-to-day life is like porn come to life. Like, how are those two people supposed to communicate? Um, and I think I recall there's a good Thinking Ape video about this. I'll try and find it if I can link it below. But they really are like separate realities. And like most men will never know, like, well, really even the best looking men will never know what it's like to even be an average woman on a dating app, to have like hundreds and thousands of matches in like daily. And so that creates its own problems. Meanwhile, it's like trying to find life in outer space, being like an average dude on a dating app, like, and then like you get matched and then like it's a bot, and or some kind of scam or something. And yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a tough problem. I just wanted to talk about another kind of dynamic effect like that, that's at play in our lives, is what's called a secure base. And I first heard about this, I think, on the PDS channel, Personal Development School. I'll link it below. And I encountered it again when we were talking about attachment theory in our last season with covering the book Archetypes by Dr. Anthony Stevens. So a secure base is provided through a relationship with one or more caregivers who offer a reliable base from which to explore and a safe haven for reassurance when there are difficulties. Thus, a secure base promotes security, confidence, competence, and resilience. It's so fascinating to me, this psychotic fixation on being independent. It's just starting to get on my nerves. There is nothing about a human being that is designed to be fully independent. We've relied on each other since the beginning of time. We're all needy. We all were raised by mommy and daddy, some sort of parent. I just, like, there were villages, tribes. Why is it that we gather? Why is it that we have this instinct to be social? Isn't that needy behavior? Like, wouldn't it be superior if we could just all never talk to one another and just be fully okay with having our own space and surviving on our own? Why is the vast majority of human history spent interacting with one another? This may sound like a bizarre question. I'm kind of being a smartass right now. But there are people out there that are like radically independent, or like see it as weakness for others to want to spend time with one another, as if that reflects some sort of weakness. Not like I don't know, like it's like oxygen. What's the difference between wanting to be with people and needing to be with people? And what are those behaviors? How do they manifest? What's the difference between needy behavior and enthusiastic behavior? Again, I'm thinking out loud, like thousands of requests to hang out per day. Yeah, obviously that's a problem. But like everyone has their own definitions, right? So how do you know when somebody wants to be around you or needs to be around you, right? I just find it fascinating. These are like definitions I think we all think we know, and we all claim some personal authority on, but there's no objective definition. And so it's strange when people can say one thing about you, or you can say something about somebody else without, you're just going by your own standard and you're judging without communicating that this is where my boundaries are. Let's talk about it. It's more like skip that step and just label that person as distant or needy. And I'm the authority and that's my experience, whatever. No negotiation, no communication. That's where I've landed. And there's no convincing me otherwise because I've already seen your behavior. Just strange to me. I'm kind of just riffing right now. I bring all this up because, like, a secure base, you know, like, when you, it's kind of a metaphor, right? In fighting any war or launching a rocket or climbing Mount Everest or working out, like, don't you need like a secure base for such activities? It seems absolutely necessary in material endeavors. Like, why should it be any different in psychological matters? The only reason we made it to the moon was because there was a mission control, after all. Are we going to say, man, those astronauts are needy, they need all this information, blah, blah, blah? That's so weak. Those astronauts are weak because they couldn't do it all on their own. That's a ridiculous statement. I mean, isn't it? Or it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, we're just this fixation on being independent and not interdependent. It just seems so strange to me. We're a tribal species. And the desire to be atomized seems, I mean, I would think it must be artificial, like cultural. There's a good anime called The Heroic Age, kind of underrated. And it's like way in the future, and humanity has like evolved into several different kind of different species. Like, it reminds me of Seven Eves, the book by Neil Stephenson, which explores epigenetics. So, like, the Heroic Age is a fictional world where humans scattered throughout the universe, and because the distances are so great, they evolved separately into separate, like, kind of almost basically different species. And like, there's the Silver Tribe, and they have like psychic abilities, but they just float through space as individuals. They have extremely long lifespans, and I think they might be immortal. I don't remember my Heroic Age lore, I apologize, but they just float through space and they can communicate at a distance, at like a cosmic levels of distances with one another. So they're kind of like in a network, broadly speaking. I don't remember the details, but they're just like, I guess that's not a good example because they're tethered by their mental network. So they're not truly atomized. But I don't really get this like fetish for atomization. It used to be like in ancient Greece, the hermit was frowned upon because we're a social animal, and virtue was thought to be like a muscle you exercise. Like, you had to be a participant in the society you were involved in. And the person who wasn't a participant, like a hermit or an outsider, aka someone independent, hey, I don't need no society. Okay, go be a hermit. But then society looked at you like, well, you've never exercised your social muscle, right? So how can you be a virtuous person? So those people, the hermit was not being independent was not a virtue. It was like the biggest red flag. Like, you couldn't be a good person if you were independent, basically. What do y'all think? Do you think there's something to that? I think there is. Just looking at my notes here. So, yeah, it's hard to go anywhere if we don't have ground to walk on. Like, we may be capable and we may have a goal in a direction, but we're not going anywhere if we don't have, um, if we can't get our initial footing. So, like, that's the significance of having a secure base, like a reliable, something reliable in your life. Like, do you think people who need a secure base to do things, do you think that makes them weak? Like, have we all been fooled and the astronauts are actually didn't work hard enough because they should have been managing their own data like alpha independent people? I don't know. So, like, I would say that the person who has a secure base in their life and hasn't alienated all their bridges has a huge advantage. Like, think about it's like, the LinkedIn like self-help porn stuff is like network, networking events. Get to know people, LinkedIn, let's connect, you know? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty trite these days, but it comes from like if you have a big network, you have possibilities and doors open to you that you can't open on your own or would be such a pain in the rear to open solely on your own, you know? And it's like, I think, like, I don't know if it still is to these days, but I've always heard like Hispanic culture, like they have giant families, right? And it's like, that's on like the Italian thing or Sicilian or whatever, like the family thing. If often extended family doesn't talk much to one another on a day-to-day basis. Maybe that's true in some families, not in others, but it would seem like nothing but an advantage. Yeah, family can be annoying, whatever, I get it. But that's like your network. You have a primal blood connection, right? And that then you proliferate throughout society. Maybe someone goes into finance, someone goes into web design, somebody learns how to fix cars. And then the car guy can get financial advice from his related finance guy, and they can both have websites created by the web guy, you know? Like, seems like a huge advantage, right? But no, you want to be independent. So you don't want to, like, connect with anybody. Yeah, I get there's a difference in the level of intimacy. I'm just broadly speaking here. Like, so, but if you, like, yeah, you can be independent with a network, which means you've turned your whole social environment into a flood of acquaintances. So you've got quantity of specialists that are siloed and that are independent themselves, and then you're like you just use them, kind of like you see your friends as subcontractors for things that you need. That's a incredibly bizarre. It must be a bizarre existence. I don't know. It's a mentality I can't understand, but that seems to be growing in popularity. Yeah, I agree that like being self-sufficient and not being a burden and paying your debts and being okay being alone are all great, right? But that's there's more to life than just being on defense. Like if you want to, don't you want to go? Don't you want to do anything? Don't you want to do anything great? I don't know. I don't think any great thing that's ever been done has ever been done by like one person, like solely on their own. They've been influenced. I mean, they were literally raised by somebody. They learned something from somebody who probably learned it before. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I just think this so-called independence thing is overrated AF. I don't think there's anything noble in being alone. I think it's very unnatural, and yeah, like that's why I love anime. Notice in anime, there's usually like a group of, like a cast of protagonists. It's not like the Man with No Name, like the Clint Eastwood, like one person, right? I mean, you could say like that's what's cool about Fast and the Furious is there's kind of an ensemble, like there's a collection. It's like that's like how anime is. There's like a cast of specialists that all work together. You know, do you ever think of the Fast and the Furious as needy and weak? I guess in a way they are, because they have to have so many to accomplish what they're doing. Like Ocean's 11, there's 11 of those assholes, right? It's not Ocean, right? There's 11. They're interdependent, right? They have their own lives, but no, they can't accomplish what they were doing solely on their own. I'm sad and exasperated that I have to articulate this, but it's just been something that's been boiling up, you know? I would say that if you don't have a secure base, there's going to be distortions in your life in some way. You can have, I don't think there's a universal secure base, but you can have a secure base for your various needs. Like, it takes money to make money. If you're not worrying about your day-to-day survival, you have a greater capacity to take investment chances. Or if you're married, you don't have to worry about dating and looking for a partner, which frees up the energy you would be using to do that, to do literally anything else. Basically, if you have some secure base, you can leverage it to attain greater heights. And combine this with the fact that life is multidimensional. We have different types of needs and insecurities in one dimension that inevitably trickle into other aspects of our lives. In other words, like not having a secure base in our life in any one aspect will affect the security of all the other dimensions in our lives. And each individual places a certain weight on their needs. Some people have a high need for freedom or for security or novelty or both. And the personal development school, which I talked about earlier, goes through all this. I think they have a course on this. I'll find the link and put it in the description. But some people truly wouldn't mind an ascetic existence if only they were free, for example. So it might be valuable to do some self-reflection on what your own needs are and to make plans accordingly. Some people spend decades of their lives trying to just form a secure base, say getting out of debt, while other people are vacationing, investing, whatever. The latter are able to have a much wider sense of security and experiences than is possible for someone who doesn't even have a financial secure base. Then the Matthew effect starts rolling. Someone who's never been able to make real friends can't benefit from the joys of deep friendship. Somebody who's never been able to get a date may never experience the joys of parenthood, etc. Yeah, let me know what y'all think about this. It's strange. It's like yeah, I don't. I'm just processing all of this. This is all riffing. We're having a conversation. I'm not an authority on this. I'm venting to my friend, the viewer. Just thinking out loud here. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think about all the potential in the various categories of life. I think about like really devoting myself to like diet and exercise, right? But what always happens with me is I'm involved in so many other projects that like I only have X amount of willpower, and I can't do everything all at the same time. And life berates you, especially men, since men are success objects. Um, like we're judged on our performance in every day, every waking moment of our lives. Um, so it's like there's that expression like you only you want to know what your real priorities are, what you spend time on. Ah, so annoying. I think that phrase takes for granted how complicated life is, or maybe I make it complicated. I don't know. The way I see it, again, I think life is incredibly multidimensional. You have family stuff, friends stuff, your own passion stuff, your 9 to 5 stuff, your evening stuff. Maybe it's a second job, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's a project. You're learning, you're tracking down resources. You're also trying to stay healthy. You're trying to budget. You're trying to, like, there's a billion things going on all at the same time. And you have the moxie to get in my face and say, because you're not tackling any of all of those things at once, then they must not be a priority for you at that moment. It's so unfair. Like, sometimes you concentrate on exercise, but then your finances are in trouble. So then you spend time budgeting, but then, I guess your health doesn't mean anything to you because you're budgeting and you're not working on exercising. It's such a nutty expression and a ridiculous stand. Like, if I go to the bathroom and I'm taking a crap, that means I don't care about my finances. I don't care about exercise. I don't care about my projects because, hey, that's my only priority, like the toilet, right? I know that's that's straw manning, but not that far. It's straw manning because, of course, they don't mean at every moment. They just mean your life in general, your general priorities in life. Okay, that's fine, but still, I just use that example to make it very clear. But even in weeks or months or years or scenes of your life, so to speak, the patterns, like, you get sucked in. Life makes demands. Sometimes you make mistakes. We're only human, right? We do our best. And I think it's way too harsh and unrealistic to judge. Like, do you know anybody who's like they've always wanted to garden, so they're gardening. They've always wanted to create a rocket ship, so they're creating a rocket ship. They're dieting properly. They're exercising properly. They have healthy romantic personal friendships. They have a healthy budget. They're well off. They're exercising their creativity. They have their need for novelty met, so they can travel and they're like, who has it all put together? And with their personal relationships are good and couldn't be better. Yeah. So I think like what you need to do with this what I'm trying to articulate here is like, if the more secure basis you can have in any of the categories, like first plug the hole so that you can stop the leak in your life. And I think independence is not the method to do that. It's working with others interdependently. Yes, being self-sufficient, but also networking so your network can serve as a secure base for the various aspects of your life, but not merely using people. Yeah. We're out of time. I could go on. I think y'all get the conundrum here. Let me know what y'all think in the description below about all this. Hope y'all find these kinds of videos entertaining or enjoyable. Either way, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.